So, welcome everybody. Sorry for that short delay. We are rejoining the regular meeting of the Brattleboro Select Board, and it's already been called to order. We convened at 5:45 to conduct a couple of interviews for the Energy Committee. So, thanks for rejoining us. And we know that the meeting has been properly warned because we confirmed that with Town Manager Elwell earlier. Our first order of business is to approve minutes. We have two sets, January 12th and January 19th.
I move to approve the minutes of January 12th and January 19th.
Thank you, Ian. Ian has moved to approve the minutes of January 12th and January 19th, 2021. All those board members in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
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 Thank you. That is 5-0. Next is chair's remarks. I have no remarks except to say happy February, happy Groundhog's Day. We're having a snow day here in Brattleboro with about a foot of snow on the ground for anybody watching from afar. And I have not seen the news, but I'm assuming Puxatawney Phil has confirmed a few more weeks of winter. If not, how foolish would that be at this point? So the next order of business is manager's comments. Peter.
Thank you. I have three tonight, but they're each brief. The first is just a reminder to the community that Brooks Memorial Library is seeking applicants to fill a vacant one-year seat on the Board of Trustees for the library. It's the unexpired term of a former board member, and folks who are interested can get more information on the library's website at brookslibraryvt.org. No punctuation going through the Brooks Library VT. Also, just want to give a heads up to everybody, this won't be any surprise, but we do want to confirm that we'll be doing snow removal in the downtown. We will not be doing it tonight because of the timing of the storm. The crews worked all through last night and through much of today. So they're home getting some rest, and tomorrow night and Thursday night, we will be removing snow in the downtown area. And lastly, an apology to the board and the public who are keeping track of the preparations for representative town meeting. We made a mistake in an item that we'll be addressing substantively later on tonight. And I just wanted to call it out now so that folks who are in the early part of the meeting and may not be with us later on will also know that we had originally proposed a date for the informational meeting about the financing for the water treatment facilities that was too far in advance of representative town meeting. Hillary Francis caught that error, thankfully. We double checked with Bob Fisher, and we know that indeed we do need to have that meeting within 10 days. It needs to be closer to the representative town meeting, so it's within 10 days. We'll be proposing later on this evening that it be held on March 17th rather than on the date that we had originally proposed, and we'll address that again when we get to that item at the end of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Next is fellow select board member comments, committee reports, and Liz has a hand up.
I just wanted to mention that there's more COVID in Windham County now than there has been, in March and April. And I just hope everyone stays safe and is responsible.
Yeah, thank you for that reminder. I've been double masking when I have to go into stores. It's really not that hard. And especially during winter, I use one of those surgical masks first and then a cloth mask. Works pretty well. Ian.
Yeah, I know everyone knows one of my announcements, but I've got two. My first announcement is actually just a committee report. The Board of Civil Authority convened last night to swear in the new term of Justice of the Peaces. And I wanted to congratulate everyone for their election. And I specifically wanted just to call out Scott Griswold, Stefan Gillum, and Kate O'Connor, who are our three newest JPs. And I congratulate them, and I'm very happy to welcome them to the board. The other thing I wanted to talk about was the election on March 2nd. So town meeting day is on March 2nd. There's no early in-person voting. So you can go to your My Voter page, update your addresses, and request an absentee ballot. You can make sure you follow the instructions on the ballot and you can mail it back in, or you can drop it off at the drop-off box in the municipal center parking lot. It's a big blue box that it's checked multiple times a day, including the weekend, and it's secure. If there's any issue with your My Voter page or requesting an absentee ballot, you can always call the town clerk. And if you would prefer to vote in person, you can vote on March 2nd at the American Legion from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And if you do request an absentee ballot, they should be being mailed out by mid to late February.
Thank you, Ian. It occurred to me to ask you if you knew how late into February you can request using the My Voter page, but if Hillary might have a better answer for that.
Yep.
So feel free. I think we'll probably see you later, Hillary, anyway, so you can always give us that info. Any other board members? Comments, committee reports? Okay. Next, we have public participation. This would be the time for anyone in the public to chime in with thoughts, questions that can probably be properly addressed later, or comments that have to do with something that is not on tonight's agenda. And I see one hand up, and I'll be taking that. But just first to remind you that in order to raise your hand, you look for your participants button down at the base of the, what's it called? Zoom frame. And that will make the participants list on the right pop up. And somewhere in there, you're going to see a raise hand. It differs according to operating system and version, I think. First, Peter.
Just a clarification. So in the newer versions of Zoom, for folks who have uploaded or downloaded the new version, the hand raise is actually in the reactions area rather than in the participants area, but you still access it from the bottom of the screen.
Thank you, Peter. Yeah, and mine looks slightly different because I'm a co-host here, so I can't quite tell you what it looks like for everyone else as well. Thanks for that reminder. And first we have Gary with a raised hand. Welcome, sir.
Good evening. How's everybody tonight? How you doing?
Good.
I guess what I have to talk about, what I have to say might not be something that's going to be on the agenda or something that's going to be talked about later. As you know, I've been on the campaign trail for Selectboard. I've been all, gung-ho and excited about this. Really happy about it, and congratulating the other constituent people that are on there as well too, and talking with Chris Mays. But during that time, I was waiting on some information from Dartmouth Hospital. Come find out, it's not the best news that I thought it would be. Come find out I have prostate cancer. At that time, I have to go the 15th for a pelvic MRI, and I don't know what extensive work they have to do with what's gonna start from that. So at this particular time, I'm gonna have to withdraw my candidacy to see what type of treatment will be done. I spoke to Kurt Dimes and I spoke to Hillary about this, and just want to ask you guys just to keep me in prayer, and hopefully they can get this before it gets me. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you, Gary. So hard. Sorry to hear that. And I guess Hillary could give us any updates we need to hear about. It's probably too late to remove your name from the ballot. But.
Sure, Hillary will know how to
make
it magically all work.
All right. Well, thoughts are with you.
Yeah.
I have a feeling Patrick is busy at the moment. with the
Best
few.
wishes, Gary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, you're. Gary gave us the thumbs up very quickly, if you noticed that. Okay. Seeing that I don't see any other further hands for public participation, I would accept a motion to convene as health commissioners for our next item on the agenda. Liz,
I move to convene as health commissioners.
and Liz has moved to become health commissioners. All those in favor, please raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
5-0. Thank you. And I'm going to kick it over to Peter Elwell.
Thank you. So the town is served by, as our health officer, Lenny Howard, who's the assistant fire chief. And he is supported in that work by 2 deputy health officers, Brian Bannon, who also serves as zoning administrator and does a lot of other code enforcement work in town, as well as Kathy Barrows, who is the animal control officer. And so she primarily focuses on animal regulations and animal control issues, but is available to fill in when needed in broader, addressing broader health officer type concerns. And it's important, each one of them has been effective in serving in these roles. It's important for us to ask that they be reappointed when we get the opportunity to have them. Once every 3 years, their terms expire. And the way the state process works, these folks are actually appointed by the State Department of Health. So we get a letter from the State Department of Health asking the town to make a recommendation regarding the reappointment. And so staff is asking the select board to officially ask, pass a motion this evening that will ask the state to reappoint Kathy Barrows to serve 3 additional years as one of the deputy health officers for the town.
Thank you, Peter.
Is she here?
She's not in the meeting this evening, no.
Questions, comments, board? No? Liz?
Are we ready for a motion?
I certainly am. Thank you.
All right. I move to recommend that the Vermont Department of Health reappoint Catherine Barrows as Deputy Health Officer for a 3-year term ending in March of 2024.
Thanks, Liz. Liz has moved to recommend that the Vermont Department of Health reappoint Catherine Barrows as a Deputy Health Officer for a 3-year term ending in March of 2024. All those board members in favor, please raise your hand. Say aye.
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 That's 5-0. Thank you, Kathy. And next, we are actually going to adjourn as health commissioners. Do I have a motion?
I move to adjourn as health commissioners.
Thank you, Ian. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 5-0. And we next have a couple of duties as liquor commissioners. So I would take a motion concerning that.
Oh my God, I just forgot. I move to become liquor commissioners.
That works. Brandy has moved to magically become liquor commissioners. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
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 We are thus so. I am going to ask Hillary to come up and join us, I think, because we have some licensing to address. Hi, Hillary.
Hello, good evening.
Hi, Hillary.
So I know that there were a couple of elections related questions. Would you like to deal with the liquor stuff first and then I'm happy to answer the election questions, or save that for another meeting? How would you like to handle that?
Well, let's go ahead and take care of the liquor items first, and then I'll probably, even though it's not within the proper topic, I'll go ahead and ask you to clarify that so that we can just disseminate that far and wide.
Absolutely. Okay, so the first item is the second class liquor license for JFR Mart. They are a business that is taking over where Lipton Inc. was located on 328 Marlborough Road. Their intention is to continue as a gas station and convenience mart, similar to how Lipton did, and they are seeking a second class liquor license in order to sell alcohol. I apologize if I mess up his name, but Mr. Zahiduzaman is supposed to be on, although I'm not seeing him in the participant list to speak to the business.
That would be MD.
Correct.
If you're there under, because sometimes people sign in on a different computer, if you're here with us, just raise your hand to be recognized there, sir. I don't see a hand. If he's not able to join us, that wouldn't stop our business, would it?
No, you could still go ahead.
Okay. Board, are you comfortable proceeding or?
Yes.
Great. Sorry for being sort of staccato in my delivery here. There's been some intrusions into our meeting and they're sort of juvenile ones. So I'm watching a few odd things happen as we go. But Patrick, as always, is doing a fine job of managing some things right now. So that's why I'm a little distracted. Apologies. So I think we're okay. If we don't have any questions for Hillary concerning this, we can take our first motion for a second class liquor license.
Oh, one question.
Yes, Ian.
Hillary, was it a second class liquor license before?
It was.
Okay.
Good question. Anyone have a motion? Liz?
I move to approve a second class liquor license for JFR Mart at 328 Marlborough Road.
Thanks, Liz. Liz has made a motion to approve a second class liquor license for JFR Mart at 328 Marlborough Road. All those in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
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 5-0. Thank you. And next, Hillary, we have our catch-all, right?
Yes. So this is the time once a year that we renew the annual liquor licenses. We do first class, second class, third class, outside consumption, and annual entertainment licenses. The way that this works is the Department of Liquor Control sends the town clerks all of the renewal paperwork. We add our own paperwork to it, like the addendum and the alcohol sales policy, and then we send that out to the businesses. In that time, they send them back along with the payments and all of the paperwork. And we double check with the police department, fire department, our grants team to make sure that there's no delinquent money owed to the town, make sure that our fire department and police department don't have any issues. And in the memo that I sent to you, I also put that we double check with the assessor's office to make sure that there are no outstanding business licenses. I will point out that this year, the assessors changed the deadline for their businesses, and that's not until mid-March, which is after we usually send these up to the Department of Liquor Control. There's nothing in our ordinance that requires the business license to be purchased in order to issue a liquor license, but it's a good accountability tool. And so we'll continue to remind the businesses, but we can't hinge on that in order to issue the liquor license. As far as we've heard from the Department of Liquor Control, there are no violations this year, which is not surprising because there wasn't a lot of serving of alcohol in in restaurants because of COVID. So there are no violations to report. And it is our recommendation that as long as they turn in all of the paperwork and fees for their liquor licenses, that these businesses be approved for their renewals.
Terrific. Thank you, Hillary. Questions, board members? No? Okay. Well, it is the first time, as I've served on the board, that there were no violations. There's usually at least a few things going on, but as you say, it's an interesting time we're in. So I would take a long-worded motion. Should anybody like to? Oh, Daniel, you're brave.
I love it. I love it. I move to approve the renewal of liquor licenses, outside consumption permits, and entertainment licenses for the entities presented, with each individual license renewal contingent upon the licensees providing the town with the necessary documentation, not having any outstanding debt to the town, having a valid current business license, and complying with any police and fire department requirements.
Thank you. And I should say it's necessarily long. Couldn't do much to shorten that up.
You can't trim that one, yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. Daniel has made a motion to approve the renewal of liquor licenses, outside consumption permits, entertainment licenses for the entities presented, with each individual license renewal contingent upon the licensees providing the town with the necessary documentation, not having any outstanding debt to the town, having a valid current business license, and complying with any police and fire department requirements. All those board members in favor, please raise your hand, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
That's 5-0. Thank you, Hillary. And so you don't have to hang on for any further time. Would you like to take a shot at my question? I think it was that on the My Voter page, how much time, this is personal interest too, because I have not yet done this. How much time into February do people have to safely receive it back since it's going through the state's page?
So I don't have a solid definitive answer for you. It sort of depends. If somebody requests it 2 days before, we will still mail it to them if we don't have contact information. If somebody is returning it by mail, so we mail it to them and then they're mailing it back, they need a little bit longer because the mail goes both ways. If we're mailing it to them and then they're returning it in the drop box or at the polls on election day, they don't need as long. I would say a safe bet, looking at the calendar, February 22nd, which gives just over a week, is probably a safe bet. I would say do it as soon as you can. There's no harm in doing it early. You can do it now. You don't have to wait until the ballots are available.
Right, right. So by our next meeting, I think we could really push everyone to have if they've not requested their ballot, to definitely do it within the next day or so, just to be safe.
Yes, please.
Okay.
And then the other question that came up was about Gary Stroud's withdrawal with his candidacy. So unfortunately, it's too late to remove his name from the ballot. And so what we spoke about was for him to just notify the media, at tonight's select board meeting that he's encouraging people not to vote for him because he doesn't intend to be on the select board at this time. And if he is elected, he would resign from that position and the board would appoint somebody to fill his term.
Thank you. That's a good reminder for anyone looking at the, how many candidates do we have for 2 year?
For the 1 year?
For the 1 year, sorry, the 2 1-year seats.
Yeah, there are 2 1-year seats, not including Gary. There are 6 candidates. So there will be 7 names on the ballot for that.
Okay. And Daniel?
Thanks. When will absentee ballots start to go out?
So we haven't received them yet. They promised us we would have them prior to February 10th. As soon as we have them, we will put them in the envelopes and start sending them out. It should be on or around February 10th.
Got it. Thanks.
Or as soon as we get the request, if after that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Hillary.
You're welcome. Have a good evening.
You too.
Thank you.
So Liz.
I would like to adjourn as liquor commissioners.
Thank you. Keeping me on my toes there. All those in favor of adjourning as liquor commissioners say aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
5-0. Thank you. Back to our normal selves, and we are plowing ahead into new business. And Peter is going to tell us, possibly with some Patrick backup, about a redesign of the Depot Street parking lot.
Yeah, I'll provide the quick summary because this is the first of several implementation steps for something that you approved back in December. So I'll give the quick refresher and ask for the action. And if in your discussion you need more details than I'm able to provide, Patrick, of course, can jump in and speak to those. He's primarily the point person on this project. So what we're speaking about is the modification of the parking lot that is down on what is called Depot Street. It doesn't look much like a street. Most people think of it as the parking lot that, depending on what your intentions are, is either the parking lot across from the train station or the parking lot across from Whetstone Station restaurant. But that area is where we're going to receive from Amtrak a brand new, state-of-the-art, fully accessible train station in a couple of years. And so as we discussed in great detail back in December, the footprint of that station is going to take up some of the parking spaces that exist within the parking lot, which is already stretched to capacity. And so in order to modify the parking lot before the train station is built and be in a position where we can be out of the way essentially and have the additional parking created prior to when the new train station is constructed, we need to move quite quickly. There'll be design work that we're asking you to approve the contract for tonight. That design and permitting, and we'll go for a grant for part of the funding for this. There's other actions that we'll be taking over the course of the next several months, culminating, we hope, in the construction of the modified parking lot in the fall, basically before snow flies. So in the September to November timeframe, we would hope to get our work done out in the field there, and then have that site ready so that when springtime of 2022 comes around, the site is ready for Amtrak to come in and provide a $5 million gift to our community. So the first step, you did authorize back in December that we expedite the work on the preparation for this construction that needs to happen in the fall. And the first step in that was for us to obtain a proposal for the engineering work required. We have that. It's in your backup materials. It's what we're asking you to approve tonight. The total proposed fee is $25,300 for Stevens and Associates to provide this design. We feel like that's a very competitive price. The overall cost of the project is estimated to be about $366,000. And generally speaking, for a project like this, design work at about 10% of the total cost of the project would be reasonable. That would be $36,000, and the proposal is for $25,300. So we've reviewed it. We've reviewed it with Steve Horton. We believe it's complete. It'll do what we need done at a fair price, and we recommend that you approve the contract, authorize staff to proceed with the design.
Thank you, Peter. Liz?
Well, I've reviewed many an engineering scope in my day, and I reviewed this one, and I feel it's totally appropriate, and I agree that it's appropriate for Stevens and Associates to have such knowledge of the site because it's a very complex site, and there's a lot of issues that they are very knowledgeable about, and I support this action.
Thank you. May I just add something there that I should have said in the presentation? I apologize.
Yeah.
I appreciate you citing their experience there, Liz. That's important. That's part of the reason why they're able to quote a very, acceptable fee for this. But it's important, I think, for the public to know, the select board knows this, but Stevens and Associates actually did substantial design work at this same site for the creation of the parking lot that exists there today, and some related work during the transportation project, the multimodal transportation project that was about 15 years ago in town. That was when the transportation center was constructed and some other related improvements. So that's why they are the right firm to do this piece of work. That's why we were able to get a good fee for the work, and are confident that the work can be completed quickly. Thank you for bringing that up.
And Ian, thanks, Peter.
Yeah, thank you very much, Peter, for that. And yeah, as this is just moving forward on something that we've already approved, the only thing I wanted to just summarize really quickly for maybe any new viewers, and just correct me if I've got this incorrect. So basically, Amtrak is going to take out, the new Amtrak station is going to take up around 10 parking spots that currently exist. And this construction that we're working towards is going to give us an additional 35 parking spots. And so net, we're going to gain 25 spots with this additional work plus the Amtrak station.
That's exactly correct.
Okay. Yeah, I'm excited to vote for it too.
Terrific. No other questions. I would entertain a motion.
Here, let me see. Here we go. I'll raise my hand.
Thank you. Brandy.
I move to authorize Assistant Town Manager Patrick Moreland to execute an agreement with Stevens and Associates in the amount of $25,300 plus reimbursement of out-of-pocket expenses for site design and contract document development services related to the Depot Street parking lot project.
Thank you. Brandy has moved to authorize Assistant Town Manager Patrick Moreland to execute an agreement with Stevens and Associates in the amount of $25,300 plus reimbursement of out-of-pocket expenses for site design and contract document development services related to the Depot Street parking lot project. All those board members in favor, please raise your hand, say aye.
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 5-0, and that passes.
I have a
Thank
dog
you.
snoring like a chainsaw behind me. Yeah, but I can't
funny.
focus.
I can't hear him, but
So loud.
next, should it please the board, we are going to be looking at our exciting annual certificate of highway mileage for VTrans.
So this is an act that is required each year by the select board. It's really a technical piece of business, but state statutes require that the board take this action. And so we're here tonight to confirm to you that the Public Works team has in fact confirmed there were no changes in our highway mileage or roadway mileage this year. And that the numbers that are reflected on the form provided by the state are accurate. They are identical to last year's numbers. They should be identical to last year's numbers. So we've made no changes in the inventory of road mileage, and we have checked the box at the bottom of the form indicating that there are no changes in mileage this year. And so we're asking that you please approve the certificate of highway mileage. While the piece of business at a select board meeting once a year is sort of embarrassingly simple. It serves an important purpose because the lane miles are used as part of the calculations that the state goes through to determine the levels of state highway aid that are provided to municipalities throughout Vermont. So doing this annually and getting it right and putting it in on time is important.
Now, Liz, I'm going to call on you, but I don't see our Public Works folks in our meeting. So Peter probably gave them the night off.
I just have an interesting little tidbit of information. It just reminded me when Peter was talking that this is almost like a census for the roads, like our decennial census gives us the ability to get funding from the state.
Mhm.
It's the same principle.
Mhm.
Ian, thanks, Liz.
Just carrying with that analogy, Liz, but this census is done every year as opposed to,
That's correct.
yeah.
And there are rare change, it's rare that there are changes, but every now and then there's something that's a little different. Sometimes because of road work that's been done that modified part of the roadway system, and other times just because something was found, in a survey or some such. So it was 3 or 4 years ago, we had a very small modification made because of something the state had discovered in one of the interstate on-ramps. And so they documented that, called it out to us, and modified our numbers on this annual certificate of highway mileage form.
They found a lost road.
Some lost square feet of road.
I assume that was an adjustment down.
Actually, it was an adjustment up, if I remember correctly,
Oh, really?
but I don't remember for sure.
The only thing that bugs me is suddenly it occurs to me we have no scenic highways. If you look at the form, we have scenic roads, for heaven's sake.
I was thinking the same thing myself.
In the
It's a
items
federal
about-
program that you'd have to be a part of, and you'd have to have an environmental impact statement if you mess with them. So count your
Yeah.
blessings.
And then you'd have to change your Rand McNally's.
Yeah.
That's dating me, right? Okay. Well, we've milked this one probably as much as we can. I think last year, actually, we got into a 45-minute discussion about this. Honestly, I seem to remember that. So count yourself lucky, everyone watching. Liz.
I move to approve the annual certificate of highway mileage for VTrans.
All right. If no other questions or comments are out there, Liz has moved to approve the annual certificate of highway mileage for VTrans. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
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 Thank you. Liz, that was an affirmative, yes?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just checking.
I have a fruit fly in here.
And after
Really?
all
This
that,
time
she
you-
votes it down.
Votes it down aggressively. That was 5-0. Thank you. And Peter's going to tell us, even if I don't know what's happening next. He's going to remind us about our proposed dates and times of informational meetings, which February is looking lovingly light, but then March is going to get a little busy for us, both in content and meetings, probably.
March always does.
Yeah.
And this year, even more so because of some of the particular matters that we'll be taking up and having extra meetings for. Specifically tonight, we don't need a formal action from you, but I would appreciate it if you would indicate your agreement with the schedule that's proposed. And if you have any concern about it, we should talk about that and make changes potentially. This is the item I spoke to under my comments. Again, I apologize for the confusion we may have created with the original proposal. I'm not going to speak to that original proposal so as not to perpetuate that confusion. I'm going to speak to the 3 meetings we are asking you to confirm as the sequence of informational meetings in preparation for a representative town meeting in March. The first of which would be, as usual, on Wednesday, March 10th. That general informational meeting is always held, except when there is some extraordinary circumstance that causes it to be on a different date. It's always held on the Wednesday that is 10 days prior to representative town meeting. This year, that is Wednesday, March 10th. There will be caucuses scheduled for earlier in the evening, one for each of the 3 districts. And the informational meeting will be scheduled for 7:30 p.m. start here on Zoom. 3 days later, Saturday, March 13th at 8:30 in the morning, we will offer, same as we did back in September. It's probably less broadly important to all the members this time than it was back then when we were doing Zoom, an RTM on Zoom for the first time. But nevertheless, as a refresher to people who did participate in September and as an opportunity for new members to better understand the procedures we follow and how to use Zoom for the RTM, there will be a session beginning at 8:30 in the morning on Saturday the 13th on Zoom to go over technical and logistical procedures for the meeting that will occur a week later. And then on Wednesday, the 17th of March at 7:30 in the evening on Zoom, we'll have a single purpose informational meeting to present the details regarding the water treatment facilities project. You are very familiar with the site and the engineering details related to how this has all been coming along. Most of the public probably is not aware of those details, so we intend to actually present the project fully. The question for RTM will not be related to the design of the project, but rather the financing of the project. But in order for RTM to make an informed decision on this important matter of why we need to spend millions of dollars making this improvement, we do intend to make a presentation about the project and be available for as long as necessary to answer questions. So the project team and the select board will be available to RTM members and the public that evening to address all aspects of the project in preparation for 3 days later actually, sorry, on the 20th, Saturday morning, the 20th, when RTM is held, there will be the discussion at RTM regarding the financing for the water treatment facilities, and then voting by Australian ballot to be completed the following week. So what we're asking you to confirm tonight is that the information meetings will be held on Wednesday, March 10th at 7:30, Saturday, March 13th, 7:30 in the evening, Saturday, March 13th at 8:30 in the morning, and then Wednesday, March 17th at 7:30 in the evening.
And board members, never mind. There's an error on the actual, there's a date error, but
Yeah.
we're moving that anyway. So just wanted to point that out. Ian.
I just have a very sort of technical question. So in this backup material, the dates aren't reflecting what they actually are going to be, which Peter, you've already spoken to. What's the procedure for that, for the material going up on the website or being available to the public? Is it edited to remove the material that's wrong, or just supplemented?
We don't do that. We don't change history for what's gone out.
That makes sense.
The minutes will accurately reflect the schedule, and the town report will accurately reflect the schedule, and we'll count on Chris Mays and the Commons also, and we'll be pushing this out to make sure that people know the schedule. But that memorandum is going to stay incorrect in perpetuity.
That's fine. I was just curious because it's not the only time, I'm sure. I mean, mistakes happen. So.
Thanks. And Peter, forgive me if I was spacing as you were speaking, but did you mention caucuses for town meeting?
I did. Those are separate from the information meeting. They're typically, and again, this year, we're expecting to planning to hold them on that same night as the general information meeting on the 10th. You don't call those, which is why it's not part of the agenda item for tonight. The select board calls the information meetings and facilitates them, but not the caucuses.
But the caucuses would be at 7 then?
No, they'll be earlier. They'll be in sequence because of using Zoom. Instead of being simultaneous, they'll actually be sequential this year. So I don't know the exact hours, so I'm not going to guess, but earlier in the evening before the 7:30 start of the information meeting on March 10th, there will be a District 1 caucus and then a short break using the same link every time. It's the RTM link. So the same digital space that we're going to be in on the 20th will be used for each of these information meetings and for each of the 3 caucuses. So there'll be a short break in between each of the caucuses, and they'll be held as the early evening becomes the mid-evening, and then at 7:30 we'll have the information meeting. All of the details related to those caucuses are also going to be very clearly stated in the town report.
Great. Thank you. And I assume that board members already know that the March 13th date is certainly optional for us because we're pretty up to speed on things. Although I remember attending last year, it was pretty interesting. Getting familiar with how RTM was going to work. Okay, well, we don't need to vote on that, but is that clear with the board?
Great. Thank you.
Clear your March calendars. All right, what else do we have? Committee appointments. So we are in, for anybody following along at home, we're still in new business, and we are at item D, committee appointments. We have one committee to make an appointment to, and that is the Energy Committee. I'm stalling because I've lost my notes on committees, so feel free to take it up. Oh, Ian.
So I'll nominate, we're in the nominations, correct?
Yes.
Yes, I nominate Joel Martell.
Okay. Ian has nominated Joel Martell for the Energy Committee. And Liz?
I just wanted to say that both candidates are very good, and they honor the town by volunteering, and I appreciate that. And I'm going to vote for Joel because we would be foolish not to have him. His qualifications are so excellent.
Okay. Brandy?
I'm going to abstain because I came in late and I didn't get to hear the first candidate. And so it doesn't make me feel good to vote on it. That's okay, right? I mean, there's enough votes without me.
That's fine.
We'll see, but it's certainly understandable. And are there any other nominations? Daniel?
Yeah, I'll nominate Miles Dumas.
And thank you for saying the last name. I would have said.
Please
pronounce it Dumas.
You're Americans.
Dumas.
Callous.
Okay, so we have two nominations. I think the way I do this is I just look for a show of hands for our first nominee, and that would be Joel Martell. All those in favor? Oh, and that's 4. Thank you. And all those in favor for Miles? 2.
And 1 abstention.
Yes. You abstained for both,
For
correct?
everything, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
For everything.
All right. So I think Joel is to be congratulated, and Miles is to be encouraged to possibly look at the next opening on planning or whatever. And thank you for the wanting to serve the town. We certainly need as many people on deck as we could use these days. And there may even be an alternate, although I'm not, I was going to say that before, that there's Planning Commission has alternates, or is that a DRB thing?
DRB.
That's a DRB thing.
Sorry. I should just stop talking while I'm behind here. Okay, so congratulations, Joel, and thank you to both Joel and Miles. Other business? That's not really on our agenda, but Liz.
I move to adjourn.
Thank you, Liz. Liz has moved to adjourn our meeting.
Wow.
Except Gary just raised his hand, and I've got to take that hand. So there's a motion on the floor, but Gary, do you want to join us?
Well, I just wanted to thank you all for your support during this time. You guys are great, and the town is great. I mean, everybody's been encouraging, and having that support system in place with you guys is going to be probably a rough time going through whatever stuff that they're going to be giving me. And also, I just wanted to put into play, and I don't know if it's too late. I guess you guys have almost closed out to endorse Kurt Dimes. If you can give him, I guess, a minute, if that's possible for the town and for the committee for that. So he may speak also. He had wanted to say something also in regards to that. And I just wanted to say again, thank you guys again for being a great support system and being there for me. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary.
Thanks, Gary.
Thanks, Gary.
Yeah.
Thoughts are with you, and yeah, whole town's behind you. We very much appreciate your energy you give to the town and the smiles and support and everything, the hard work. I think I'm going to allow Kurt Dimes to chime in at the next public participation, because that's how we've warned our meeting.
Yep.
With no objections, board, I will proceed with Liz's motion to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
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 5-0, and that's Ian's giddy because it's 7:07, right?
This may be the earliest meeting.
Mhm.
It is.
Your earliest meeting, yes.
Yeah.
Ian, I think you were giddy at 6:15 tonight.
Yeah, that's true.